we'll start off with Kristen's presentation now.
Do we have the, oh, there it is. So if you want to stay in touch outside of social media after this, we hope you will. I speak at most of our national conferences, but there's one that I am involved in planning and take a key role, and that's the American Pets Live conference held in Austin, Texas each year. And it's a practical conference. Basically, it's somewhat relentless, like this conference is. It's really serious people who want to learn hands-on strategies to save more animals. So I'm at that conference every year, and also find us on social media. We noticed a bunch of you joined that foster care page, and already everyone's so excited about the conversations happening there. So this is just the beginning of a lot more conversations to come. So this is a presentation that we're going to go through kind of quickly because we've been talking about this since 2013 when the Humane Society of the United States put out a manual called Adopters Welcome. And it really was just geared towards increasing adoptions because in the old days of sheltering, we felt like we had to protect animals from the public. And that's all changing, thank goodness. So these are the three shelters I've been most recently involved with. At the Fairfax County Animal Shelter, we brought them from a 75% to a 90% save rate. Fairfax County is one of the most affluent counties in the United States. It's right outside of Washington, D.C. And went from there to Austin Animal Center. We brought the shelter to a 96% save rate of 17,000 animals through practicing open adoptions. And then at Pima Animal Care Center, we went from about 85 to 91%. And this is all because we stopped trying to protect animals from our communities, and we started to say just about everybody is good enough to own a pet. So the reason that we practice open adoptions are because we want to get more animals home and we want to build relationships with people. One of the things that's always driven me crazy about this field is we tell people that they're not good enough to adopt from us, but anyone who wants a pet, unless they're court-ordered not to own one, is going to go get an animal. They're going to go on social media. They're going to go on the internet somewhere. They're going to go on the street corner. They will get a pet if they want one. But if they get one from us, it's spayed or neutered, it's vaccinated, it's microchipped, and we have the opportunity to build a relationship with them so that we can help them be better pet owners. We have so many people walk into our shelter every day, and sometimes I think I have a little bit of a bias against very young students. I was a very young student and adopted 6 dogs at age 19 in my tiny apartment. I probably shouldn't have done that, although when I couldn't keep a couple of them, they all ended up in fine places. But I think that's my bias. But we all have biases against some group of people, and that gets in the way of us finding most of our pets' homes. Because the option, if we're going to discriminate against people for age, for race, for class, for the way that they look, for the way they present, if we're going to discriminate against groups of people and not let them adopt, the result is that animals die. We can protect animals, but our movement has often protected them to death. We've protected them so much that no one takes them home, and euthanasia is their only option. There's this idea that there's a perfect adopter out there. There's this family who is going to be never working. They have 2 children who are very good with other animals. They don't have any life problems. They don't argue. They're beautiful. And there's this idea that there's a perfect adopter out there. And a lot of what we have done is to wait for this perfect adopter, but they don't exist. I have had to learn the heartbreaking lesson of sending a pet home to someone I thought was the perfect adopter, only to see it come back really terribly neglected. We just don't know who's going to take good care of pets. We have to start with the assumption that people that are coming to us want to help and they're there to do the right thing. So the starting point for this talk is that maybe all of us are good enough to own a pet. Whether we're young or old, whether we rent, have a fence, don't have a fence, whether we own pets currently. Maybe we're first-time pet owners. Maybe we are people of color. Maybe we are people with children or young children. Maybe we're people experiencing poverty or homeless. Maybe all of us are just good enough. So the starting point for all of this is that anyone that comes to our organization to help us, we are going to give them an opportunity to help. We're going to help them find a match. Have any of you ever felt like someone has come into your organization and wanted to adopt or foster, and you have ever thought, I don't really feel comfortable sending a pet home? Let's be honest. Yeah, I have. We definitely have. That's okay, and I'm not saying you shouldn't feel that way. What I am saying is you need to ask yourself why and what the consequences of you feeling that way are. So if you have certain biases, you have to question yourself when you're saying, I have a bad gut feeling. That gut feeling is rarely ever just a gut feeling. It's usually tied to our own biases. Our adopters, they're our best advocates in the community. They're our future donors. They are people that are going to support our organization. They're going to take their pet proudly around the community, and they're going to tell them where they got it. But if you turn them away, they're going to do the opposite. They're going to feel that they were discriminated against, that they were made to feel not good enough. They're going to go somewhere else and get a pet, and you're going to break that potential relationship with your organization. Okay, so this is thievery. This is not my ideas. This comes from the Adopters Welcome Manual. But the goal is that we take this 5-step process. So 1, we celebrate people's willingness to come to our organization. If they're coming to us, they're trying to do the right thing. Dog fighters, animal killers, they are not beating down your door to take home a pet that's microchipped and going to be traced back to them, right? That's not where the worst people in the world are going to want to come and get they're not going to want to come and get their pet from you. We meet people where they're at. We help them be successful. We take away the barriers that are preventing them from getting a pet. And then we help reach out to as much of the community to invite more people in. We have this guy come into our shelter, and this isn't really about adoption, although I think about this guy all the time. He came in and he had no shoes on, and he had his guitar, and he seemed to have some of his belongings with him, so as though he may be experiencing homelessness. And he was very nice, but a couple of the staff members came and they said, this man doesn't have shoes. He shouldn't be in the shelter. It's not safe, and what's he doing here anyway? And they thought that he was there for bad intentions. And thank goodness, a few of our other staff who are managers and who really get it, they walked up to him, they welcomed him to the place, and they started talking with him. They didn't interrogate him. They didn't tell him he had to put shoes on right away. And it turned out he was a person experiencing homelessness. He had brought his guitar to the shelter because he wanted to play music for the animals, and he thought it might bring them some comfort. And if we hadn't asked that, if we had just gone and told him to put his shoes on and been really mean to him, we would have missed out on this really sweet opportunity. And our dogs loved it. They were so excited. He's been back many times since to play little concerts for our pets while they wait for homes. Okay, so here's how you do it. This is the nitty-gritty of how you remove these barriers. And don't freak out on me, okay? because I know some of y'all still do these things, and I know why, but remember, every barrier results in lives lost, not lives saved. Number 1, say goodbye to landlord checks. In my first shelter, we read everyone's lease, and we called their landlord, and oh my goodness, it took so much time. Our adoptions at the time took about an hour and a half to process, which meant a lot of people who were waiting weren't able to adopt. We had to call the landlord, and most landlords who wouldn't have cared at all, we were putting them on alert. We were making the landlords afraid of the pet that might be coming home. So we don't do landlord checks anymore. You know what we do? We tell people, check your lease, make sure you're allowed to own a pet, make sure you're allowed to own the kind of pet you're adopting, and you know what? People don't want to lose their homes, so they check themselves. People are really smart, and if you tell them there may be restrictions in their housing, they will check themselves, and you don't have to do it. So we don't do landlord checks anymore, and no, we have seen no increase in return rates due to that. We've done this in 3 shelters now. Get rid of all the no's and the must-haves out of your adoption policies. So I know that there's an issue here with fencing. In the U.S., most dog owners don't have fenced-in yards, and their dogs are just fine. And that's one of probably 25 no's and must-haves. No small children, no other pets. Sometimes there's a good reason for those policies, but most of the time they just don't make sense. Instead, what you want to do is tell everyone what you know about the animal and then have a conversation with them. So instead of, if you have a big dog that's very, very jumpy, instead of saying no kids, you can say, this is a big dog and it's very, very jumpy. Is that something that your child would be comfortable with, being jumped on? And people know, right? Yeah, my kid loves dogs. They've grown up with them. Oh, no, I have a shy child who probably wouldn't like that. And then if they say no, you say, well, that's great because we've got 12 other dogs to go show you right now that aren't jumpy dogs. So we don't require people to keep cats indoors, and honestly, even in our own organization, this is debated. People feel really strongly about it. In a lot of Europe, it's considered cruel and inhumane to keep cats indoors, and you can't adopt a cat if you say you're not going to let it outside. In some of the U.S., and I know here some places, if you say you're going to let a cat outdoors, you're not allowed to adopt it. In reality, no one's listening to any of us. They're nodding and smiling, they're taking their cat home, and they're doing what they want with it. Whatever your policy is, if you're an organization that believes cats should be indoors or one that believes cats should be allowed to roam in their environment, it doesn't really matter. The restrictive policies aren't changing behavior, and they're not helping us educate people. Your time's much better spent, wherever you stand on this issue, your time's much better spent talking to people about why you stand where you stand. This issue comes up for us with declawed cats and people letting them outdoors. It makes me personally nervous to think about a declawed cat being outside unprotected, and so we just talk to people about it. We say this cat doesn't have any defenses, and we have coyotes. Do you guys have coyotes? So we have coyotes, and the cats have no defenses, and we just talk to them about it. And if we talk to them about it rather than having a restrictive policy, people get it. That's one of our cats that, one of the things that we do is we harness train and leash train cats so that if people do want to take them outdoors, they have a way to do that. This one, oh gosh, I can't believe people still do this. Okay, so requiring vet care. So if I'm going to adopt a pet from you and you tell me, oh, is your pet up to date on all of its vaccines? Right now, my pets are not up to date on their vaccines. My dogs aren't. In fact, they're like 4 months expired. I only know that because I fostered as temper dogs, and so I need to get my vaccines updated. Otherwise, I am the best pet owner in the world. If there's one thing I'm good at, it's owning my dogs. They're spoiled and they're awful, but they're like my kids. I love them so much. If I wanted to adopt from you, you should be excited about that because you should know that your pet is going to be the center of my world for the rest of its life. But if you tell me I can't adopt from you because my vaccines aren't up to date or my pet is overdue for its annual exam, you turn me away. I'm sending you home with a vet-checked animal, right? Like, I'm sending you home with a vaccinated animal, so there's no risk to your pet to go home. But it's this idea that people are too irresponsible and they shouldn't be allowed to adopt. In the world we live in now, we have so many competing priorities, and people are busier, moving faster than ever. Telling people that they have to have all their pets up to date on vaccines isn't doing anything for your pets, and it's not helping them be better pet owners. Because you know what? If you tell them that and you say, no, you're not adopting from me, they're not going home and going straight to the vet. They're going home and feeling really upset that they couldn't get the pet that they wanted. Oh, so when I was in Fairfax, we had pit bull restrictions. If you wanted to adopt a pit bull dog, you had to be 25, own a home, undergo a background check, agree to a mandatory visit, agree to mandatory training, and have an 8-foot fence. And you can imagine that due to those restrictions, no one could adopt pit bull type dogs from us. If they did, the process took 4 weeks, so 85% of those dogs were dying. We overturned those restrictions, and now the life-saving rate of those dogs is exactly the same as other dogs. Pit bull dogs are just dogs. There's nothing unique or special about them. Again, if you came into PAC, if you came to my shelter, you would see 500 dogs that you think would look like pit bull dogs or Staffordshire Terriers. They're just dogs. And so any animal you're adopting out should be treated the same as every other animal. That was the last dog we adopted out. That's Bam Bam. He was the last dog we adopted out under our pit bull restrictions. He was in our shelter for 11 months waiting because of those restrictions. And that guy put up with the 4-week screening process to get him. So my partner's here somewhere, and he asked me to please not show anyone this picture. That's me. That was our holiday promotion, so we asked people to adopt pets as Christmas gifts, and we told them if they adopted them as gifts, we would hand deliver them to people's homes. We did that for a couple of reasons. People feel a little weird about pets as gifts, and we thought by hand delivering them, we could make sure that they were actually wanted gifts. There's been plenty of research done to show that pets given as gifts, there's no higher rate of return, and people actually feel an increased attachment to those. But nonetheless, it was our first time, so I dressed up in this ridiculous outfit, and on Christmas morning, 2014, we went door to door delivering adopted pets to people's homes, and made the national news a couple of times for this. So meet and greets, a lot of times these are required. Oh, you have to bring your dog in, you have to bring your whole family in. We don't do these unless the adopter wants it or there's a reason to. In general, we don't want the pet to stay there 1 second longer than it needs to, and so meet and greets are optional. You can have them, and we're happy to have you meet our dog, meet your dog, or have your dog meet your whole family, but that's your decision, not ours. We trust that people know their pets and their families well enough to do these themselves, but we do provide a lot of education about how that first interaction, especially with another pet, should go. I've started to tell everyone 6 weeks. 6 weeks of time for new pets to acclimate, to get to know their family. We're trying to better manage those expectations for people so they're not taking home pets and having bad experiences. But we've found that meet and greets have nothing to do with whether that's true. This lady, I just shared her picture because she was so excited when she adopted. She was stopping like along the path, and everyone that walked by her, she'd be like, I just adopted him. I just adopted him. I just adopted him. She made me really happy. She was cool. So this is sort of related. Let the adopter decide who from their family needs to meet the pet. We see all the time, must meet the whole family, must meet everyone in the home. Get rid of that. There's no reason. And grandma in her wheelchair does not need to come in to meet the pet. And this happens all the time. It acts as a barrier. People have where I live now, people sometimes have 8 or 10 people in their home. We're certainly not going to make them haul in the whole family to meet the pet. They're pets. They're not dinosaurs or crocodiles, will I get to see a crocodile? I'm going up to Daintree. Okay, cool. I wrote my boss an email before I left that said, if I die in a plane crash, in parentheses, or get eaten by a crocodile. And I sent him the entire succession plan for the organization, so he didn't respond. Okay, so don't do home visits. Don't go to people's homes and tell them whether they're good enough. No rescue group should be doing this. It's a waste of time and resources. We have too many lives to save. If you're a rescue group, I don't care if you're taking in 200 animals and you say, well, we're a rescue group, so we can't do home visits. You are wasting your time. Other ways to use that time: pull more animals, do more adoptions, help in your community, provide post-adoption follow-up for those same adopters. Let them come back to you when they need help. There is no reason for you to look in anybody's house. This is kind of a joke. This is one of our hoarding case houses. This is like what we all imagine people's homes might look like and why we're investigating them. These people were not adopting from us. They gathered up their 150 animals all by themselves. We serve these people at these clinics, these vaccine clinics, the ones I told you, 400 people line up. None of those people have fences. A lot of them don't even have homes, but their pets are so happy and doing so well. Support people however they're keeping their pet. Back to this main theme. They will get a pet even if you don't give them one. If they get one from you, it's going to be vaccinated, it's going to be desexed, it's going to be microchipped. Let them get one from you and then support them. And this is my friend Kim Wolf. Trish talked about Kim Wolf too. She's really special. Kim Wolf is a amazing advocate. She's studying discrimination against seniors when they're trying to adopt. And these Seniors for Seniors programs, honestly, they're kind of BS. Because it's offensive to people to tell them they can only adopt an old pet because they're old. We need to stop doing that. And Kim is out there spreading that message that seniors should be able to adopt any pet they want. We send neonatal kittens to seniors, to people with dementia, to people with memory loss. That program has brought in so many donations. It has created, I can't actually tell the stories because I get teary of what that program has meant to people, but we connect pets with people of all ages, all ability levels, because those pets are great for them and it's good for the animals. Okay, don't require existing pets to be spayed or neutered. So someone can adopt from you even if they have unspayed or neutered pets that haven't been desexed at home, because you're sending them a spayed or neutered pet. It's okay. I thought these people were coming to surrender pets, and I was super judgy about them. And I was like, oh, nice, you brought these puppies in this crate. And I was like in kind of a bad mood, so I was giving them the glare that those of us who work in animal shelters give people. And then she was like, I'm here for my foster appointment, da-da-da-da-da. And I was like, ugh, I do it too. I don't even know it, and I do it. So we do free adoption events. Most of our adoptions are free. They're $50 maximum, which is a really low adoption fee. That's part of how we move so many animals. we send pets home the same day. We do free adoptions. We do pets as gifts. But the key is that we're there after the adoption happens to help people when they need it. We just create an environment where we're going to send you home with that pet as fast as we can, but we're going to be there on the other end when you need us. So we invite returns. We celebrate them. I went on my little rant about how we have to stop freaking out about adoption returns. Adoption returns are a good thing. They teach us so much about the pets, and they help us find better fits for people. So we have an open return policy. We'll swap you out for a new pet any day. What we don't want to happen is a return without another pet leaving. And so we set from the very beginning, we tell our adopters, if this pet doesn't work, bring it back. Well, first they call us, and we talk to them about it. If it doesn't work, you bring it back, and we will help you find a pet that's a better fit. Set that up from the beginning so people can lose the shame around adoption returns. I don't know why that ever became something for people to feel ashamed. I'm famous in my shelter because I bring my fosters back after 2 hours. If it's 10 p.m. and it's still whining, it's coming back to the shelter. And so all my staff doesn't want me to foster, but that's okay. I've learned something about the pet. One thing, even though I'm a horrible foster, I do really great marketing material, so I get some marketing pictures, and then that pet gets a home the next day. Okay, so when we say conversation-based adoptions, what we mean is that we have a conversation. Every pet, every person is treated as an individual. So we just talk to people like I would talk to you, or you would talk to each other. We just chat with them about what they're looking for in a pet. We don't put any restrictions in place. And we ask questions. One of my favorite questions to ask potential adopters is, what did you love about your last pet? That is such an awesome question because people start telling you all about their last pet, and you get to learn so much about them. Asking questions like that is totally different than asking, how many children do you have at home? Do you have a fenced-in yard? Ask them questions about their life. Do you like to go hiking on the weekends, or do you like to lay on the couch and watch sports? Those kinds of questions help you make better matches. Remember that everybody who's coming to you is coming to you with good intentions. People don't go to adoption agencies because they want to hurt animals. People go to adoption agencies, they go to animal shelters because they want to help. And you may have to put some restriction in place. If you have a tough cat that has definitely lived with other dogs, hates other dogs, and someone comes in and they have 3 dogs at home and they want that cat, you may have to steer them to another cat, but the goal for you should be never to say no, but just to help people find the right match. That's what we're there for. They will get a pet, they will get it from somewhere, and our job is to care about every pet in our community, regardless of whether it's in our own shelter or rescue group. The big view says that we want people to get pets from us, because if they get pets from us, they're going to also get the lifetime of support that helps them be better pet owners. So I think we have time for a couple questions.
If we can get Slido up. And also, someone left a black Samsung with a purple back in the ladies. So, oh, okay, excellent. Well, let's come and grab it. And Kristen, the first question is, to be able to offer all your services for the community and their animals, what is the annual cost?
So we take in about 18,000 pets a year. Our operating budget is just shy of 10 million. We raised last year $5 million in donation funding, and so that will go to support programs over the next 3 years. So we need roughly 11.5 million to do everything that we do.
Thank you. Do you have any advice for adopting out those with special needs who present as not fully understanding information you give at the time of adoption? I'm not sure that's quite, did I read that right?
The people or the pet are special needs? Oh, yeah. We consider everyone to be special needs when we're adopting because no one's listening to us talking. I mean, if you think about, so I said at the day-long TED Talks, you guys are familiar with TED Talks? They're 18 minutes because that's the maximum length of time on a good day anyone can pay attention to you. When people are adopting from us, they're like in love. They're like, they have an endorphin rush, the dopamine's going crazy. They're not listening to us. Post-adoption follow-up is the future. Now, we don't have the resources for it. Even with our budget, post-adoption follow-up's tough. We send out emails 3 days, 3 weeks, and 3 months after adoption. What we need to do as an industry is build way, way, way more robust post-adoption follow-up programs that just provide all the support that people need so that when they actually are listening to us, we're there to answer the questions.
With returns, do you have a time limit?
No.
Okay. How many times do people have to swap out a pet before you say enough is enough?
I don't think that's ever happened. People, it's kind of a pain in the butt. We're a huge organization, so people aren't just coming over and over again to trade in pets. If we have a real concern about someone, so like there are people, one of the things that happens is we have people that we know own like 6 or 8 pets at home and they want to keep adopting. This has probably happened to some of you. What we'll do then, and this is only in special circumstances, we'll do home delivery. And so we'll have one of our staff members actually bring the pet to the people's home. And that just helps us check in, make sure it's a good fit, make sure they're not completely overwhelmed, and that they're getting all the services and support they need. And so there are special cases where, but because we treat every person and pet as an individual, we're always looking for the way to make it work, even if we have to do something a little special.
Where is the line between saying no to an adoptee and saying yes? And how do you deal with people who aren't responsive to suggestions or become defensive?
If you are drunk, if you appear to be on drugs, if you are combative or aggressive with us, or we have any reason to believe that you're going to harm the animal, we say no. We do say no to adopters, and we do this because our role is to protect the animals, but we also don't do that in a vacuum, and so when we say no, at least 3 people have to be involved because we don't want anyone's biases being the thing to make that decision, and so we'll involve management. Sometimes I get involved because those are hard decisions to make, and if we say no, a lot of times in the future we'll say yes. So if we have an adopter that we have adopters experiencing homelessness that truly don't have anywhere to take their pet immediately, we may say no to that person in the moment, but what we are going to do is connect them to housing and support services and connect them to some of the human services they need. And so that part of the reason we have all those partnerships is so that when we do say no, we can help get people connected to services that might let us say yes in the future.
Do you have mostly staff or volunteers doing adoptions at your location?
Both. Our special needs pets, medical and behavioral, are all done by staff. Just because disclosure is so important, and we have to make sure that process was thoroughly documented. But we have volunteers and staff that do adoptions. We have volunteers do everything in our shelter.
Okay, aren't you worried with returns that it might send the animal backwards and make it more difficult to adopt out?
No. No.
Okay.
No, adoption returns are like the best lesson you can get about the pet, and they have, all the time we have not seen an increase in adoption returns by opening up our adoption process, but when we do get those returns, it teaches us about the animal. Anything an animal does badly in a shelter or in a home can result in that animal dying, right? But those things are more likely to happen if the pet is just sitting in the shelter waiting. And so any chance we have to get the pet out. And if we're not sure something's a good fit, the other thing we do is we just foster it. We tell people to take the pet for a week and see if it's a good fit. And so you don't have to adopt. You can also just foster.
How long after adoption do you provide free or discounted vet care?
0 days. Once the pet is adopted, that is the responsibility of the adopter. We're really clear and upfront about that at the beginning, and we adopt out pets with ongoing medical issues. So we adopt out kittens with ringworm. We adopt out cats that might have renal issues. We adopt out dogs that are going to need training. If if we have those pets, they're also available for foster. So virtually every pet in our shelter is available for foster care. So if there is a pet with special needs that are going to require ongoing care, people can foster them. We also let them adopt. And if they're fostering, we provide the follow-up care.
What support do you give behavior dogs? Behavior dogs, dogs with behavior issues.
Well, okay, so the really quick answer is every dog in our shelter is play grouped. The goal is every day. It doesn't happen, but that's what we try. We have an army of volunteers who get the dogs out of their kennels twice a day for walks, and we provide kennel enrichment in the form of everything we can throw at them. That's 10% of dogs that do have behavioral challenges. We have special volunteer programs for those dogs when they're in the shelter. We get them out to foster as quickly as possible, and then we work with local trainers. And we have a whole volunteer group that all they do is work with those more challenging dogs and help the dogs transition to their new homes. And those volunteers they can be called anytime by the adopter if they need additional help.
Okay, 2 more questions. So you're doing really well.
I'm moving.
You are nailing it. How successful is leash training in cats? This is a double barrel. And what length of time is required?
Leash training cats? It just depends on the cats. It's like I am unabashedly a dog person only because dogs in the shelters I've worked at are dying more than cats. That's not true for most people. So we've put a lot more into the dog behavior programs. Also because we can't release dogs, we can release cats back to the community. Our cat leash training is only done with cats that want to do that, are like explorer types. We don't force that on any cat that doesn't want it. The training we do with cats that don't love leash training is clicker training, and it works so well. It's so easy and it's so much fun. So we clicker train most of our cats that are going to be with us more than a week.
Excellent. And I'm not sure if your shelter does rabbits as well, but if you do you adopt to outdoor homes? We're always hesitant over here due to the viruses. So I guess myxomatosis and calicivirus.
Adopt cats to outdoor homes?
Rabbits.
Oh, rabbits. We don't adopt out very many rabbits. I have been in shelters where we've adopted out a lot of rabbits, and yeah, it depends. So when I was in Fairfax, people were raising meat rabbits. They're like giant. I think they might be from Australia. They're like these giant white rabbits. New Zealand, yes, right. Okay. So these things are giant. They're like miniature dogs. Some people would keep those outdoors, but in general, we try to encourage people to keep small animals indoors.
Excellent.